Inside Blitz Week 4 NFL post Green Bay Detroit. What a game! What did you guys think about that, Ted and Ron?
Well, I thought it was a blowout, and something I don't know. I've been around this planet for too many years in the Vince Lombardi days. I don't think I've ever seen Detroit do that in Green Bay. It wasn't even close. The final score wasn't even indicative of how bad the blowout was. We talked about it a little bit before we went on here. Detroit is very impressive on both sides of the ball, but the Packers had no chance with their two O-linemen out on the left side. It was Jordan Love against the world last night. He was running for his life. He had no chance in that matchup. Outstanding edge rush by the Lions. Their O-line has just been fantastic. And hey, let's give it to Jared Goff. You know, he's doing what he needs to do. The guy throws a bad pick 1.5 minutes into the game, and it didn't matter at all. They just went on and took care of biz.
Yeah, what I liked about this game is that it presented betting opportunities that I didn't know existed, or I kind of did in the old days when Ted and I used to do this a long time ago. But yes. I had taken out a small future on Detroit winning the division a couple of days ago. And then I checked around. Literally, I think 95% of the games, you never know what's going to happen just because somebody takes a 7-0 lead. But in this game, I don't know what you guys thought, but after 7 minutes, I didn't see any way Green Bay was going to compete in this game. Jordan Love was completely off balance. Detroit was extending their will. You can see Aiden Hutchinson's impact there. It looked like a mismatch, and I didn't think it was going to change. And if you have a slow-moving book, there were actually divisional futures still up during the game.
Really?
Wow.
Oh, that's it. That's the old school stuff we used to look for.
Yeah.
In game when there was no in game.
I said 7 minutes. I'm going to check. And,
well, we're going to give you a pat on the back, and we're going to give me a kick in the nuts, because I never do this, but for whatever reason, I felt the same way. And I said, you know what? I'm going to check to see what the end game is here. There's just no way in hell they stand a chance. This is men versus boys in this situation. And I deserve a kick in the nuts for not looking for the divisional futures. And, I'm in the penalty box.
Okay. Well, I'm in a penalty box for college because I let 2 power rating plays go by. I don't always play the power rating plays, but both of the games on Thursday, just because I had it was a long story about the week, were 7.5 points exactly off my line. One of them I didn't play at all. And the other one, I frantically said, well, I don't have time to research. I'll just put in my minimum wager. And, so there's my kick in the nuts is forgot about the Thursday because they weren't the marquee games compared to Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
So what was the value number you got on the Lions for the division?
I know there were plus 110s out there, but I actually ended up with Pick'em, even money. I didn't get the plus 110. Yeah.
And what is it today, by the way?
I haven't checked.
That will be interesting to see.
Minus 210 or so?
Probably, right?
Yeah, they stole a home win, so it makes sense. And the reason that I did it a couple of days ago was not so much because of Detroit Green Bay. It was because Minnesota was 0-3 and they had squandered 3 opportunities to stay close in the race. So it became, in my opinion, right now, a 2-team race.
Yeah, and how good is Laporta, by the way? What a great
addition. Enough of that. I'd like to talk Lions endlessly, but
yes, well, I'm doing this for you.
We've got Dolphins at the. Go ahead, Ted. Introduce
the Dolphins and the Bills. Sports USA doubleheader coming up on Sunday. Hey, this has turned out to be the game of the week. Everybody's interested in this one, except for the PR departments of either team who didn't give me a guest for either team. That was our screw up. We had a little communication problem, so unfortunately I didn't get an interview from them. But what a matchup. And then that'll be followed by the Raiders and the Chargers. An interesting battle there. Old school rivalry in division game, of course. And we'll get to that in a little bit. But as far as Miami, hey, you come off a 70-point game, right? You had 8 running backs score touchdowns in the game. I mean, these are insane numbers. This is not a video game. This is a real game. How bad are the Denver Broncos? I don't know, but you're the ones who allowed it. So good luck to you moving forward. But right now, Miami is the team to look at. Their team speed is what is really killing the other their opposition, and they're mixing it up beautifully. The offensive guys are doing whatever it takes to put their guys in position for Tua, and Tua right now looks like Kenny Stabler and Joe Namath put together. I mean, he's just looks fantastic. So as long as he can stay healthy, big question mark. Please, I hope that helmet works, because he can't afford to get.
There's a lot of passion behind these Dolphins from the other.
Should be.
From what we did earlier this week, Ron, and in comments for the show I did on Wednesday. If you offer an opinion that Miami isn't the best thing since sliced bread, you're going to get some pushback from viewers saying how dumb you are, and they're the best team, and if you don't understand that, you're a moron, and blah blah blah. And it's not that we don't respect Miami. It's hey, let's get a little bit of a wider body of work than 3 games.
Yes,
and
who they beat,
and who they've beaten, and also let's not forget the defensive metrics for Miami are in the bottom half of the NFL. So as good or as well as Miami has played offensively, hey, they've got a defense also. And when you talk about the offensive part of Miami, Buffalo's right next to them. So you've got Miami, Buffalo right there next to each other, but one has a defense and one doesn't. So let's see what happens this game before we start drinking too much Miami Kool-Aid. What do you think, Ron?
It's 2023, and I don't think I would have guessed that I would be saying this, but the Bills need to slow down the pace in this game. I mean, who would have ever thought that about a Josh Allen team keeping other teams off balance? The Bills have to do everything they can, like they did the last 2 weeks, to have run-pass balance. They've got a running back, Cook, who can easily achieve that. When Josh Allen has the threat of a run game, and it's not just himself, he can go ahead and hit his tight end targets, which are now 2 of them. Obviously, he still has Diggs. He has the deep ball to Gabe Davis. But what you want to do, and against Miami, just like you said, Cris, Miami's flawed against the run and not all that much better, if you want to use it, better against the pass. And if Josh Allen and company can just control clock in this game, maybe Tua doesn't get that Tom Brady type rhythm during the game. And I think they can achieve that. The question is that going to be part of their game plan?
Yeah, is this sort of like the old days, the Chip Kelly offense? Keep their offense off the field, work the clock, get on the board, and then don't let them just run up and down the field on you. And also keep your defense fresh.
It's the Don Coryell offense. It's going way back.
Yeah. Unfortunately, nobody watching this even knows who Don Coryell was. But anyway, and Jordan Poyer is out of this game, which doesn't help the cause. He's one of the important voices on the D for Buffalo. I don't know. Maybe DeMar Hamlin might make his season debut. He hasn't played since his almost tragic incident last year. So that would be an interesting sideline to this.
You have a couple of short clips, don't you?
Yeah, let's hear from Bills head coach Sean McDermott, who talked about prepping for the team speed of the Dolphins. I think this is interesting.
You can get a couple of Usain Bolts, and we'll bring them in tell Brandon we'll bring him in for a week and run scout team with about 3 or 4 of those guys. I think that gives us a good look right there.
What are you realistically hoping to get out of that this week?
The scout team, yeah, they've got to play as fast as they can play. We'll try and give them a rest as much as we can in between reps because there's only so many guys to go around to run as fast as we need them to run. And, I mean, just to simulate that speed, it's unique. Yeah, if you can get a couple Usain Bolts, and we'll bring them in tell Brandon we'll bring him in for a week and run scout team with about 3 or 4 of those guys. I think that gives us a good look.
Yes. So he was joking about bringing in as fast the guys as possible on the scout team to just somehow say, hey, we're going to face really fast guys this week, and we got to practice against that because they're not used to that. So, I mean, that tells you it's a whole different kind of a prep week. And then you have your AFC Defensive Player of the Week, linebacker Terrel Bernard of the Bills, and he talked about also getting ready for the Miami offense.
Got a great offense, obviously, explosive at all levels. They got guys that can score anytime they touch the ball. They want to get their guys open in space and, create mismatches and things like that. So we'll do, what we need to do this week to prepare for that. They got a great offense, obviously, explosive at all levels. They got guys that can score anytime they touch the ball. They want to get.
Okay, so Terrel Bernard just had a great game this last week, and again, we're without Jordan Poyer. I don't know about the health of a couple of other guys on D for the Bills, but overall, they got their work cut out for them. If they could just make this a reasonably close game, I like Buffalo at home this week, guys. I don't like laying 2.5 points, but I'd like them to win outright.
I like to say a couple of things about the line of scrimmage because I think this game hinges on getting to Tua. If you do not get to Tua, eventually somebody is going to be open on a slant pass, and it lights out. On the other side of the ball, even a bigger loss, I think, will be Jalen Phillips. Jalen Phillips is a very good pass rusher. He's really come into his own. I think this is his 3rd year in the league. That gives Josh Allen a little bit more freedom. Maybe he doesn't get sacked as much there. And my final point on this game is a disgusting one. Ted, you're in the studio. You can watch 8, 9 games at once. I'm at home. There's 9 games on television. I have the red zone, but I don't have the whole package and stuff like that. We see one game in the morning, and it's not this game. Instead, we're going to see the Rams and the Colts.
Oh, well, that's a better game anyway.
Yeah. It's just crazy that I will have to follow it a different way because this is the game of the week.
Well, if it was the 69 Rams and the 69 Colts, it might be a hell of a game, but otherwise it's not. Hey, by the way, speaking of Jalen Waddle is now in after missing a game. We talked about the importance last week. Say if he plays, it's going to make a difference. He didn't play, and they scored 70. So that means they should score 130, I guess, this week, right?
No, these teams in those situations could go back and relax a little bit and actually kind of bumble around more. So
anyway, interesting that right there. But hey, a big AFC East battle. We love having the game of the week on Sports USA for sure.
What's your thoughts, Cris?
My thoughts are I'm just going to stay off of it. I lean toward Buffalo. I want to bet Buffalo. My model doesn't say bet Buffalo. So I wouldn't consider taking a Miami teaser. As I've said before, for whatever reason, I have it in my head that somehow Buffalo gets a front door cover and somehow blows teasers out. We'll see if I'm wrong or not. But that's the way I vision it. The total set at 53.5, which seems for these teams and their offensive abilities, total seems low. It seems like they want to sucker you in for the over, so to speak. So a little leery about that. Maybe this game will be slowed down more and lower scoring than we anticipate. Mm-hmm. That's all I have on it.
Yeah, no turnovers, weather, Josh Allen, right? It's all up to Josh. Don't screw this up.
Yeah. Next game, pretty interesting game. Garoppolo may be the first quarterback or first player in concussion protocol that actually makes it onto the field the same week, because every other person in concussion protocol has had to sit out a game. So he's still not been activated. He's still in the protocol. Do you have an update on this, Ted, at all?
No, just limited practice yesterday and not much. And I will be getting a call from Max Crosby as soon as we get off here. So I'm going to ask him, so was Jimmy G out there? What did you see? But it's too late for this show, unfortunately. Hey, bottom line is that if he doesn't go, you got old Brian Hoyer and the kid. And what do you know about the kid Aiden O'Connell there, Ron?
He's had a lot of reps in college, which is really good. They're really high on him based on his preseason work, which was among the best for any team in preseason. Yep. He's a relatively accurate passer, but he's going to be throwing more short stuff. You may see Adams catch 9 balls for 77 yards, for example, because he's going to hit the targets, but I don't think he's going to stretch the field. Although it is the Chargers, and a lot of teams have been able to stretch the field on the Chargers. It's probably a pretty decent opponent to put in the rookie. Under most cases, I'd probably rather see the grizzly old veteran, even though he has limitations. But I think against a Charger defense, why not try somebody who they don't have any film on? Vegas has to clean up their turnovers. We know that. They're -7 in turnover ratio. Vegas has some other things they have to clean up defensively. 3 out of every 4 passes are being completed against them. I expected better tight end play. We're not getting it. I expected better running play. Jacobs with his holdout or whatever that is. What is it? 40 carries, 110 yards.
Yeah, nothing.
Get it done in the NFL. What do you got so far, Cris?
Well, I saw Eckler was practicing again, but Ted, any sign of whether he's going to play or not?
Well, Eckler would have been our guest if he was for sure playing this week. So that's a little tidbit right there. My guess is no, they have a bye week next week. I think it makes no sense to play him this week. Let him get another 2 weeks, basically. And it's a high ankle sprain, which originally they did not say that. It was just an ankle. It's not a bad eye ankle sprain, but there's no such thing as a good one. So I think it's probably to their benefit to say, you know what, 1 more week is not going to kill us without him. Winner, obviously, if they lose this game, they go 1-3 into the bye week, which ain't good. But I think it makes sense to sit him out. That's just my personal opinion.
The Chargers were used to playing without Williams last year. What's the situation this year? Are they going to be able to adjust without him? I don't want to use the word easily, but they had last year. What's going to be the transition?
They got kids now, right, Ron? And you tell us about their draft pick that they brought in this year, and then there's a second-year player from a receiver standpoint. I think they're okay, actually.
They're okay in some spots, and it's going to hurt them in other spots. Nobody makes the contested catch better than Mike Williams, almost in the entire NFL. They will absolutely miss that. Q Johnson from TCU, the rookie, he has stretched the field capability, and obviously with that quarterback, it works. He also has a case of the drops, severe case of the drops right now. And so he's not going to be as trustworthy, and he's certainly not going to know the nuances of catching in traffic like Mike Williams. So against the Raiders, against a 75% pass defense, Cris and Ted, it may not come into play. But in general, Mike Williams is a loss for this team.
Oh, it's a huge loss.
50-50 balls are not going to go the Chargers' way when they do not throw to Keenan Allen. Of course, they throw to Keenan Allen an awful lot, and he's going to be open an awful lot in this game. I could see Herbert going downfield once or twice with success, maybe not to Q Johnson, maybe to Palmer or one of the other receivers because it's the Raiders. But both teams, the Chargers are a weird team because they have some pretty good defensive personnel of their own, but they don't play to it.
Right.
This is not a game that I really want to get into the coaches. Let's just say both staffs have a lot to be desired in terms of how to coach the game. But from a player standpoint, one would think the Chargers have better personnel overall.
Now, why don't you want to get into the coaches when I think that's one of the biggest issues for both teams? I think we should spend 3 hours on the coaches, to be honest with you. Both sides.
Everybody knows it, and it's on both sides. There's nothing much more to rehash.
No, what we need to rehash is how the Raiders are not reacting. This is supposed to be the new McDaniels, okay? Not the old guy. This is supposed to be the evolution of a man who's evolved into more of a leader, slightly more of a people person. I'm not seeing it. I don't see it. I don't think he's a leader. I don't think they play hard for the guy or extra hard for the guy. And
well, you
have
Chandler Jones, who was arrested on mental health issues last night.
Well, I'm not going to blame that on the coach.
Well, but part of his issues were with the team. So
yeah, I know, but
you have that. You have other
that's
people.
His own personal thing, that.
No, look, I realize that, but
yeah,
you have all kinds of comments coming left and right where there's leaks in the confidence of that team, and when you've got a head coach that's kicking field goals when you need a touchdown and you're on the 6-yard line and there's a minute to go. Come on, it's just awful. I don't know what to make of it, but you got to ding them hard. You've got to assume they don't have their act together, and the wheels are coming off that bus.
Well, if you have a shoe store and it's a really, really bad owner and you hire a bad general manager, you're probably not going to sell a lot of shoes. And this is not a great shoe store. Okay. It starts at the top and it's always going to be like that as long as this regime is there. It is really bad.
Well, what shoes would you recommend?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not going to recommend a new owner. You got to start there. I mean, the guy hired John Gruden for 10 years and he hadn't coached for 10 years. It's just stupid stuff that they do all the time. It's nonstop and it has to stop.
Intro your interview.
Okay. Well, we talked about, by the way, I've always felt that the Chargers have not used Mike Williams to his strength. I'd be thrown to Mike Williams much more often in those 50-50 situations. There are so many mismatches he has always created. And sometimes I would just, we need a first down. I'm throwing it up in the air and nobody's going to get it but Mike Williams. And in my opinion, they don't do that enough. But now
I don't know. 19 catches in 3 games. I think they understand how to use it.
I'm talking about overall, over the last few years, they have not done it enough. But now that he's gone, and Ron and I brought this up during the week a little bit, now maybe a little more to the tight ends, and we got one of them. Donald Parham Jr. had 2 touchdown catches last week, and then he had 1 turnover that was calling me yesterday. So I got a chance to talk to him. And, folks, I brought up the play. I had nothing to lose, but, the 4th down and inches in their own territory, which was one of the dumbest moves I've ever seen, but just put that on the long list there for the Chargers. Let's hear from Donald Parham. Ted in Los Angeles, how are you, guy?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for coming on the pregame show. We appreciate it.
Sir.
Hey, you got yourself 6 catches and 3 TDs this year, 2 last week. Do we have to get our Get Donald the Bull more often T-shirts out?
Hey, listen, I'm just here for my opportunities. I'm not even pressing the issue. I'm just blessed to have the opportunities from Justin for sure.
All right. Well, if I see Justin, I'm at least going to tap him on the shoulder and say, "Hey, he's open again."
Right.
All right. Let's go back to Sunday's 4th quarter. 4th and inches. Your own 24. 151 left. Vikings, no timeouts left. Even with your coach's history, Donald, did you expect to go for it?
Absolutely. Every time he, Staley believes in us, and we just got to execute. That's the bottom line. And so we call to arms every time.
So I watched that play several times, and you were right there jumping in front of Kelly to try and get a quick block in. What were your thoughts during and after that play?
Yeah, to me it was just kind of like I felt like I was a little bit out of position, and I felt like I could have did a better job, to help the team in that scenario. But we survived. We came out with the W. Our defense played great at the end there, and that's all you can hope for.
I just don't know how you could have got in there any quicker because you jumped over from your position as fast as you could.
Yeah, it was just kind of like it was all of a sudden. I wasn't expecting it at all. The guy was inside the tackle and came all the way outside. Oh. So it was just kind of all of a sudden.
All right, you're in your 4th season now with the Chargers. What's it been like catching passes from Herbert and how he's grown as your leader?
It's a blessing, and he's grown so much, just based off of how he's been able to lead the team, do the right thing every time, and he's such a good person, so he's definitely growing every day, and we're feeding off his energy. He's got a little swagger to him now.
Yeah,
he's got the little arm sleeve going, so he's doing his thing for sure.
Yeah, because he's naturally a pretty quiet guy, and he looks like he's starting to evolve as an older guy now a little bit.
Yeah, he's, it just comes with, experience, different situations he's been put in, so he's had to step up, and, you feed off of that.
We're with Chargers tight end Donald Parham Jr. How do you assess your team's 1-2 start? And, hey, this is a pretty important matchup. It's early in the season, but another divisional game, huh?
Yeah, and I mean, we try and make sure that we come out each week and put our best to the test, for sure.
All right, so how tough was it to see Mike Williams go down for the season, and how you everybody needs to fill in for him?
Yeah, and, that's just part of the NFL. It was very tough because that's our brother, and he's such a huge factor in our offense. But, we have to keep pushing and keep playing for him in that sense.
Tell about the young guys who are now going to get their chances there at receiver.
Yeah, they've come up. They've definitely made a big impact, coming in and making sure that they're doing the right things every day and making sure they're prepared as possible. So it's just a matter of, getting them in and making sure they're doing the right things each down.
And as tight ends, you and Gerald maybe get more involved in the offense from here on?
We'll see. Each week is different, so we'll just have to play it by ear. But, we're always ready for the test.
A couple more things, Donald. You guys need to be cautious with Eckler's ankle injury. Give us an idea how Austin not being there affects your offense.
I feel as though we just kind of lost a little bit of a voice on offense. He's still kind of around helping out the young guys and stuff like that, but to have him on the field was a big thing. So to lose that piece of our offense is, pretty significant. But, like I said, we have young guys that are coming in and doing the right things every day, making sure they're working hard every day. And so they'll be able to step up when their name is called, for sure.
And how about each of your first 3 games coming down to the last possession?
Yeah, I mean, that's the story of, the last 3-4 years or so. But, we know that we're going to have some close games. The NFL is always tough, so you have to make sure that we're in it to win it for 4 quarters, no matter what, or even longer if need be.
And last thing, what do you see on film from the Raiders D?
I feel like we have a lot of matchups outside. We have, plans for Max Crosby and, making sure that we're taking care of him first, and then also just, doing our thing outside and making sure that we're playing our way of football instead of just kind of what they want us to play.
Well, funny you mentioned Max because he's going to call in the next 2 minutes. So anything you want me to tell him?
Just be ready. That's all.
Tell him not to be ready. That would even be better.
Hey, it doesn't matter to us.
No, I got you. Thanks, man. I really appreciate the time. All the best. Stay healthy, all right?
Yes, sir. I appreciate it.
Hey, Donald, Ted in Los Angeles. How are you, guy?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for coming on the pregame show. We appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Hey, you got yourself 6 catches and 3.
So let me chime in right now. The answer to your last question was fascinating to me in terms of, he said, we got some things going on the outside. I think you got something out of him that is usable in terms of they uncovered some things against this Raider defense that they plan to use.
Yeah, by the way, I had a problem. Again, it was slow. I couldn't hear the interview well in my headset, so I didn't even know where you were in the interview. So I don't know what you're referring to. Are you referring to the Max Crosby thing?
No, I'm referring to the last question when you asked, what he has planned, what do you have planned without, very last question you asked before Max Crosby. And he said, we have some things we're going to plan to do some things on the outside. And then we have some things lined up for Max Crosby, which was very interesting.
Yeah. Right.
Because this is something you and I talked about, and maybe you'll be asking Max, is that he's got 2 sacks on the year, but the team only has 5. And if you don't get to Justin Herbert, and he's going to be able to pick and choose, he's literally going to go 29 of 42 or something like that, because he's going to have his pick of players.
Oh, absolutely. No, this is a big game for Max and the D. And again, that's been an underperforming defense for Vegas for longer than we'd like to admit, because they have some pretty decent players on it. And but Max is the guy. He needs to come through big time. If he gets a couple of sacks in this game and they just put pressure and they're in his face, then we got a ball game.
Well, the line seems to be sliding down in anticipation Garoppolo will be available, I assume.
Probably.
Down to 4.5, some places
Really?
5. My number's like the Chargers, but I don't want to lay those points in a divisional rivalry like that. But I'm going to find a way to use them, with the money line some way, somehow. And I think I have a position on the under. I think I was anticipating Garoppolo not playing, but I still lean under. What do you guys think?
Let's besides the odds, let's bring up one point that's not stressed enough when the Chargers host the Raiders. This is a Raiders home game. It'll be 75% Raider fans in LA at that game. It's going to be great. That's the way it always is. You'll see a scattered Chargers around. They'll sell their tickets, whatever. So advantage Raiders from that standpoint, from a noise issue.
So one of these teams is going to get a divisional win and get to 2-2 and feel good about themselves, even though both of these teams are pretty much underachieving according to my numbers. That's something to take into account. I have a situation that does favor Vegas, which I would never even think about if Jimmy G wasn't at full strength. But, you hate to lay Chargers. I know you're trying to do different things, Cris, which makes sense with the Chargers, but you don't want to lay the 4.5, 5.5 with the Chargers because their track record isn't very good. And I will also support your under. There is a situation that's pretty heavily based under in this game.
I just got word Eckler is practicing. He has a brace on, though. So,
I knew he was going to practice today. I heard his entire he did an interview, a group interview yesterday. He just didn't do any one-on-ones until he starts playing for sure. He said he was going to practice today, so it's not a surprise. And he said he might be wearing a brace. It's not about that. It's about whether he feels he can actually go 100% in the game. And I think that is doubtful, more than questionable. And if they play him, they play him. So he's able to go. But again, bye week next week makes no sense to me.
Well, moving on, some pretty big news. The NFL changed their policy on gambling, and they have activated Jameson and whoever else was from Tennessee. They were suspended with him. So Jameson Williams is available to go for the Lions going forward. So that's a big boost to the Lions' hopes. And I forget who the Tennessee guy was that was suspended also. It sailed by me too fast.
So Jameson Williams is the modern Alex Karras.
Yeah.
It's okay. Alex, you're not with us anymore, but your suspension is over.
Baltimore just announced 5 people out.
Oh, yeah, they're in bad shape. I don't know what's going Deshaun Watson has got a shoulder injury, but he apparently is going to play anyway. But Baltimore I think they had 7 starters out last week, 11 guys on the injury report this week. Same old story.
So for
Deshaun
Baltimore,
Watson is questionable too.
For Baltimore, Bateman's out, OBJ's out, Humphrey's out, Owen's out, Jabo's out, and doubtful is Stanley. They were hoping to get Stanley back, so not the great move that they were, not the great news they were counting on.
No, they did get. I think they got 2 O-linemen back, so that's good. But I don't know who their playmakers are going to be. That's a major problem.
What's the current over-under on the game?
It slid to, on the news of Watson not being able to practice today and being in pain, you can get 39 and 39.5. Oh, there's a 38.5 actually.
So it opened around 41, which to me was very surprising because I had set it in the 30s as well. This is one of those smash mouth football games, and both defenses are preparing well. If you think there's going to be some fluke plays in those kinds of games, I always recommend a third of a play or a quarter of a play on a special team or defensive TD. You usually get somewhere between 2-1 and 225-1, plus 225 on those. So it's a nice saver in case you don't want to get mad saying, I had the under all along, and then the guy did the pick six and that was it. But, at least you get some of it back.
And the first half unders down to 18.5. It seems like you can accidentally go over that sometimes.
Yeah. And again, we touched upon that briefly. 18.5 is, not a number that's exciting in terms of that. London game this week. So for you guys, both of you can answer this. Do you have any concern that because of their youth at quarterback and whatever, that this is a tougher trip on Atlanta than a Jacksonville team that goes there every year?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the familiarity is always good. So Jacksonville is just another home game for them. But, I don't think it matters a ton. It's a little bit of an edge to the Jags, but they're not playing great either. So they need to pick that up somewhat. And Trevor Lawrence is off to a little bit of a slow start here.
Well, he's been a victim of some drop balls and some goofy situations. So they're due for some positive variance. That's the thing that scares me on that game. And as I mentioned earlier, the Lions, the coaching staff was basically laughing at Atlanta because Atlanta came into Detroit and everything they did, it was already on tape. They didn't do anything new. They didn't scheme any differently for the Lions as they would anybody else. And that's pretty scary to think that they were just sitting on their hands expecting to show up in Detroit. And obviously the defense shut them down. So if a team's going to be that unprepared and has to deal with travel out of the country, that's a big problem in my eyes.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with Atlanta. I like, they've added some really good playmakers on offense. They should be able to move the ball better. They collapsed against the Packers, a really bad one. I mean, there's no excuse for that. They blew a 17-point lead in the fourth quarter. I don't know what's going on with that team. I haven't had a chance to watch Ritter that much just individually, so I'm not totally aware of his growth. What do you think of him, Ron?
He fits this team very well. Not enough playmakers at wide receiver, and let's go the SOS route. Same old story. We're now into 40 games, 42 sacks for this team or something like that. And, some ridiculous number. I mean, they just do not care about the pass rush. Trevor Lawrence is going to have one of the cleanest pockets. I don't know if he'll have to shower.
Well, it'll be London water any way you look at it. So,
yeah. What's interesting this week? 7 divisional games. Week 4. You don't usually see that.
Yeah, it's true.
And is this the third divisional game for Baltimore, correct?
I believe so. I mean, you got some teams that, these games are important early. Just like Green Bay, you don't want to lose a home divisional game this early because then you're playing catch up. You're a game and a half behind in that kind of way.
Yep.
This Cleveland-Baltimore game is going to be critical because I think Baltimore gets out their 3 divisional road games right off the bat. And then it's all the divisional home games afterwards. So you go into Cleveland here and Watson's all banged up and you're facing, whatever his name is, and you can come out of there with the win. That puts him in the driver's seat.
Yeah. By the way, one more thought on the Jags. They're playing back-to-back games in London. So there's an unusual situation. It really is their home.
Yeah.
Yeah, but explain this one to me. They're in London this week for their home game, and for next week it's their road game. Shouldn't the second game be the home game?
I don't know what they're doing. Again, it's officially that way they don't lose a real home game on the schedule. But the Bills will be the home team next week in London.
You got any other games or topics that you want to bring up, Cris, Ted?
I just like the fact that there are a lot of divisional games this week. This early in the season, I think it's makes the importance just a little bit stronger there, and we don't always get that this time of the year. So, because sometimes it's sort of like, okay, it's week 4, whatever, a bunch of meaningless games. Not now. So I like that. I like a good mix of that.
I don't think I don't think they can do anything with Cousins. He makes too much money, and his contract's over. And Minnesota's going to get Jack, diddly for him. I think. Ron, do you think they have an interest in keeping him after the season, though?
No, it's a very big. I mean, if they really do end up winning 6 games for whatever reason, they're going to get their pick of a lot of good quarterbacks. And then he's gone. It just depends on how they finish. If I'm Minnesota, I don't think I'm out of the playoff chase yet. Maybe out of the division chase, but it's the NFC. There's a couple of really good teams, and then there's some others. So I'm trying as hard as I can this year. I don't think Atlanta's interested in him. The Jets might be, but the longer the season goes, the Jets may be out of the play. You don't want to trade for that kind of quarterback and miss the playoffs and then be stuck with a salary or other things, or he just walks. So I think they're going to have Cousins for the whole year.
Well, his salary, I think it's only this year, isn't it, though? Isn't his contract up at the end of the year?
Yes. Yeah.
So it's not like you're worried about his salary next year. It's a loaner is all it is this year.
Yeah, and I don't think the Jets. I mean, if the Jets are interested, they have to do it now before the season slips away.
Right, exactly.
Well, how would they have the money left over? That's the thing. I don't think they do.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird situation both ways. So I think they stick with Cousins. It's not like Minnesota's shot themselves in the foot. They could be 3-0, -3 turnovers easily. Could beat Tampa Bay. Their second game -3 turnovers, and last week was a laugh fest in terms of the ability to make a proper decision. So, and that brings up a point that's interesting. I don't know the metrics on this. Maybe you do, Cris. We have 4 teams that are winless, and they're all playing each other this week. and the road team is favored. Minnesota over a field goal over Carolina. Now, last I checked, Denver over a field goal against Chicago. So, maybe the guys at Wager Talk have the metrics on when 0-3 faces 0-3 and there's road favorites involved and so on. But that's a weird slate when you have all the winless teams against each other in the same week.
I don't remember one of my sheets here having both teams, all 4 teams 0-3 on my same sheet. So I've made sure I put them together so I can talk about that during the show.
So I think this Russell guy is married because of the way he phrased this question. Who is a sleeper team that can do some damage if they make the playoffs, and why is it the Colts?
Well, I don't know if the Colts can do some damage because they don't play defense. They just give up the safe pass, and eventually they'll have a come-from-ahead loss because that's the way they do things. We could all kind of pick a sleeper team. I'm looking through the slate right now. You want to know who could do some damage the way they're playing, and it's inside the same division if Jacksonville doesn't get their act together? It could be Houston for all I know.
That's
CJ
exactly
Stroud
what I was thinking.
is really doing a great job. And eventually DeMeco Ryans, I mean, if you're not going to get him in his first 3 games as head coach, if there's not fatigue from all the new faces and stuff like that, and the chemistry doesn't get in there, I mean, he's just going to make this team better over time.
Yeah. Again, only problem is where's the offensive coaching going to be? So I'm always concerned about that at this era.
Well, what do you think about the Rams' chances if they come out with a win this week? They're not in bad shape.
No, I mean, it's a better than expected start. I just don't believe these kids are good enough over the long haul. This is way too young a team to be able to do something. And if they do, they even shocked Ron from a draft standpoint, because he didn't say that. I don't think he said they had a bad draft, but these are a lot of we don't know what's going to happen with all of these guys. And they all turn out, or a chunk of them turn out to be that good. That would be very surprising.
So I think Indianapolis is the worst on single coverage. So the Rams should have a little field day with their little speedy guy that we had on our show that you had, Ted.
Yeah, go through. Puka will probably get 20 throws at him this week.
Yeah, they're going to be open. They're going to scheme them. There's no question there's an advantage on the Rams offense for this particular game. Something bothers me about the Rams, though. I mean, they look so good week 1. They took care of Seattle. But now they're 1-2 again. and the schedule after Indy is probably going to heat up a little bit more.
Right.
They certainly don't match up against the really good teams, the one that can expose the fact that the Rams have very few playmakers. Maybe they get Cooper Kupp back, and
Yeah,
the
they're
key
supposed
is
to get him
really
back.
the absolute key, because they can't run the ball at all right now. The absolute key is going to be how healthy can Stafford stay each and every week.
Yeah, I think Kupp's supposed to be back next week, so he's on pace to come back. Let's put it that way. They like the way he's going, so that'll help. But and I thought the Rams played okay against the Niners. They made it a game. I didn't never expect them to win, but they were in the game, and that was better than I expected, to be honest. I thought they were going to get blown out, even at home. So they're playing better, and good for them. And Kupp's going to help, but I just don't think they're good enough.
This is a big game for Cleveland. I like that comment that you just put up there, because the Browns defense, they're playing lights out right now. If they get this divisional win against Baltimore, they don't have to have Watson do too much.
No.
If their defense is playing like that.
Well, the unusual thing about the Browns is we all have them rated number 1 in defense, but they have faced 3 of the 5 worst offenses to date this year. So let's not get overly excited with what they're doing yet.
That's a good point, but I don't care if you're playing the Sisters of Mercy. It's week 4, and they've given up 1 offensive touchdown this year. That's incredible. I mean, that is really amazing.
71-yard TD, that was the one. So there's been no sustained drive against Cleveland so far.
Yeah, I mean, that's just fantastic. It really is. But again, who have they beaten? So we'll see.
They got 2 weeks to prepare for San Francisco after this. Then we'll really see what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. What else you got, Ron?
I do not think I have anything else. I'm really looking forward to getting this 4th data point, though, because I love week 5s, because there's a lot of situations that work in week 5. I can cross over my data. Sometimes you can cross over a little bit early, and Cris, I know you have sometimes enough data points that you start trusting your model right now. Certainly, you have to pay attention to the fact that Washington's allowed 19 sacks, or somebody's done this or somebody's done that. But I'll be excited for one more data point.
Well, I want to give you a pat on the back for this one, because if you've been following us, Ron has always pointed out that NFL coaches look at the season in quarterlies. And if you saw Campbell's interview last night, he mentioned the quarter. So very spot on, Ron. Campbell's thinking about it in the quarterly, and focused ahead for Carolina, knew who they were playing already the next week. And just very interesting to hear him say that.
Yeah, Ron, did you want to go over my Sports USA routine that we talked about before?
Well, if you've got a couple of minutes, Cris and I on Tuesdays, people know our routine because we're discussing it on air. We're brainstorming games. We're setting our lines. We're going through different things. I'm looking at the matchups. Cris has a routine each and every week. I have a routine each and every week. I think that's what keeps us grounded. But from the other side of the story, you have a routine as well. So maybe you can give us a couple of minutes, explain to people watching what it's like to prep for what you have to do on Sunday on the fly.
Yeah, for example, this week, it depends on the start of our second game. And when we have a normal 4:05 Eastern time start, I do a 30-minute pregame show for the second and the first game, always a 30-minute pregame show for the first game. So I have 2 long pregame shows to prep for this week. So I delve into Miami and Buffalo starting Tuesday, start to read up a little bit on what's going on in that matchup, and the Raiders and the Chargers. Monday, usually I will feed my producer 4 or 5 players for each team that are going to be on our air that I want to interview. And then he'll contact the team and hopefully get us one of those guys from each team. So when I start to really get into it is Wednesday. I do my sheets. And when I do my sheets, for example, here's my Sports USA sheet for this week, all right? and it is I put little notes on each of them just so I can have them right to immediately in my eyesight. And when the games start, I do updates throughout the broadcast. They'll say, let's go to Ted Sobel in LA with a scoreboard update. Here's my scoreboard from last week, the Miami Dolphins. Okay. 70 points. I put every single score down and I highlight them in different colors so I know what I'm looking for with different notes. And it was a crazy game, and I kept hearing they scored again. So that was insane for me. But my routine is usually get the guys for interviews for Thursday, sometimes Wednesday, and before you know it, I'm writing all day Friday night and all day Saturday because I got basically an hour of pregame shows to write and produce and put these things together with different sound. I've already edited probably 25 sound bites. We played 2 of them today for my 2 pregame shows. So I just listened to tons of interviews from each of the teams that we're airing. So that's why I know what Austin Eckler's up to, because Austin talked to us yesterday and gave us about 10 minutes of what's going on in his life. So anyway, that's pretty much what I do.
So I'm sure you'll text me with the what's going on with Max Crosby. I would encourage people to listen. If you do get Crosby, tweet it out, because I think we're getting some sound bites from that game that are very interesting and could be very meaningful.
Yeah, but the actual posting doesn't happen until Sunday morning. We don't post the interview until Sunday.
Right. Well, bookmark it.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll have Max calling in a few minutes as soon as we're done. I hope he calls. Supposed to call yesterday, so I'm expecting it to happen today. TBD. Anyway, Cris, congrats on your Lions. What a start, huh?
What do we got next week? What's next week's games?
Oh God, I'm not prepared. You did this to me again.
Oh no, come on, Ted.
I'm so busy doing my
professional.
I'm so busy doing my stuff. I gotta look it up.
Hey, you
Too
guys,
busy talking
Cris,
about
what
yourself to do your job.
Hold on. My job. No, my
Cris,
job is this week.
Give us some
on.
final thoughts, Cris.
Yeah, while you're doing that, give us final thoughts. I'll look it up.
Yeah, you know what? I've got a pet peeve. All these people that list injuries or problems with players, why do they only list the player's name and not the team? Do they expect everybody to know every single player on every team? What percentage of these obscure players do you know what team they're for sure on? It just drives me nuts as I watch this stuff scroll by. I'm like, what team is that? What team is that? Is it that much harder to just put a nickname on? Well, that's what grinds my gears.
Okay, I got you. By the way,
Our
doubleheader
games for next week.
Next week. It's the Cris special. Our opener, Carolina at Detroit.
Oh boy.
And the line is 7.5 last I looked.
Really? And the Jets at Denver. Sorry. The best I could do.
Oh my goodness, Ted. We're gonna have to have filler material next week. But
hey,
don't worry.
We do this in advance, so we didn't know it was going to be this. We probably thought it was Aaron Rodgers against Sean Payton. What a great matchup.
Oh God.
Cris, the burden is on us to come up with some really good stuff and some picks for next week based on those games.
Well, and the Broncos will be favored once again. So are they favored every week this year? How does that happen?
Well, you know what? Well, they won't. They may not be favored if they lose this week, and the Jets do it decently. But remember, it is that we'll see. We'll see.
Well,
we'll have something.
Don't forget that's another Swift game, so we get it. We were all excited about that. If that isn't a reason to not watch the game, I don't know what is. Thanks for joining, everybody. We'll see you next week.